All right, well, good evening to the two folks that are joining us this evening for the Restore Act Multi-Year Implementation Plan MYIP Amendment 2 public webinar. I appreciate everyone's interest for attending the webinar this evening. For those that won't be able to attend live, this will be recorded and posted on the Escambia County website after the event. My name is Matt Posner. I'm the Restore Program Manager with the Natural Resources Management Department here at Escambia County, and I will be hosting the webinar this evening and running through the slides and what Amendment 2 entails. So just to go over a few things for this evening. First, to give you a quick overview of the webinar. This meeting is being recorded. As I mentioned, it will be posted on myescambia.com/MYIP. You can go back and watch this at any time. All participants will be muted upon entry. If you would like to provide a written comment or question, please utilize the chat box to enter your question or comment, and that will be found by hovering over at the bottom of the screen. If you'd like to speak, please indicate your preference to speak please indicate your preference to speak in the chat box. You'll be called on by the host and be given 3 minutes to speak. Just to note, this is a listening session only. We will not be responding to comments or questions directly this evening, but all comments will be consolidated and addressed in writing. So just a quick overview for tonight's agenda. We will go over the Deepwater Horizon oil spill just briefly, the Deepwater Horizon Restoration Settlement, the Restore Act, a recap of what Escambia County has committed Pot 1 funding for thus far, the details of Amendment number 2 to the MYIP, how the public can provide comments on MYIP Amendment 2, an opportunity to provide live comments, and then finally next steps in the amendment process. So just a quick overview. I'm sure many of you have heard of this before, but the funding that's made available that we're discussing this evening results from the Deepwater Horizon oil spill from April 20th, 2010, when the Deepwater Horizon rig blew out in the Gulf of Mexico. Tragically, 11 workers lost their lives, resulting in the largest marine oil spill in U.S. history, with a discharge of approximately 134 million gallons of oil spewed in the Gulf in the spring and summer of 2010, resulting in significant environmental damage as well as economic damage across the Gulf Coast. So this slide is pretty complex. I'm not going to go into great detail of it, but really what I want everyone to take away from this slide is this is a very complex funding and restoration network that resulted from the Deepwater Horizon spill. The federal government sued the liable parties of the Deepwater Horizon spill, which included British Petroleum, BP, Transocean, Anadarko, against the spill, and that resulted in a nearly $20 billion settlement in 2016 through numerous funding cycles. The one we'll be talking about this evening is specifically the Restore Act. The Restore Act was passed in 2012 and signed into law by President Obama in the summer of 2012. The Restore Act allocates 80% of Clean Water Act penalties associated with the spill back to the Gulf Coast region, the area of impact, with the remaining 20% going to the Oil Spill Liability Trust Fund, which is a trust that is meant to oversee and manage future oil spills and environmental disasters. So within the Restore Act, there are 5 different funding streams. The one that we'll be speaking directly about this evening is known as Restore Pot 1 or Bucket 1, with a formal name of the Restore Direct component. In the state of Florida, all 23 Gulf Coast counties in Florida receive an allocation from the Restore Direct component, which is administered by the U.S. Department of Treasury. In Escambia County's case, over the payout period, which will run through 2031, Escambia County will receive approximately $70 million over that 15-year payout period for projects related to ecosystem restoration, economic development, tourism promotion, flood mitigation, and the like. So I've mentioned MYIP and multi-year implementation plan a couple of times thus far. So what is that? Well, it's a requirement of the U.S. Department of Treasury. It prioritizes eligible activities or projects for direct component Pot 1 funds. And the purpose of it is to obtain broad-based participation from the public, from those that are listening in either live or on the recorded version. And it's meant to ensure completeness and compliance with the Restore Act and Treasury's regulations. Again, while these decisions of which projects are funded are determined by the Board of County Commissioners, the actual compliance and administrator of the funds is the U.S. Department of Treasury. This is a two-step process to ensure funds are allocated and available for a project. The piece that we're discussing right now with MYIP and the MYIP amendment is step 1. We'll talk a little bit about next steps towards the end of the presentation. So to give you a quick overview, as this presentation notes, this is amendment number 2 to the county's multi-year implementation plan. The county adopted the initial MYIP back in 2017, which included 10 direct component Pot 1 projects. Last year, in the summer of 2020, the County Commission identified an additional 6 projects to include that was later adopted by the U.S. Department of Treasury in summer of 2020 for a total of 16 active projects totaling approximately $20.2 million. All 16 of these projects are in various stages of implementation. Many of the initial projects focused on design consideration. Some of the projects that are not on this list, there's actually only 2, have been removed due to funding from other sources. This includes the OLF8 master plan, and now with this amendment to the Town of Century wastewater improvement project. But all of these other projects remain active and are either in design or approaching a design commencement. So there are only 2 major additions to MYIP Amendment 2. The first is related to the 11 Mile Creek Regional Stormwater Ponds project. This was an initial project within the MYIP that was approved in 2017. With Amendment 2, an additional $3 million is allocated towards construction of one of the stormwater ponds that was identified in the larger project at West Roberts Road. The purpose of this project is to attenuate and treat stormwater runoff that is in the 11 Mile Creek basin. This project builds on top of nearly $1.2 million that have previously been allocated in the Restore MYIP, with the initial MYIP amount of $268,000 for design of this pond at West Roberts Road, and with Amendment 1 that was approved in the summer of 2020, an additional $1 million for acquisition and design of additional stormwater ponds in the 11 Mile Creek basin. And so this $3 million will ensure construction of the entire pond site at West Roberts Road will take place. The other project proposed in MYIP Amendment 2 is the Cantonment Community Center. This is a completely new project. The purpose is to serve as the design of a new community center in the Cantonment Community Redevelopment Area, or CRA, at the site of the old Ransom Middle School off Muscogee Road. The project purpose is to design a facility that will eventually lead to construction of a central resource center to provide a space for community functions and recreational activities in the Cantonment CRA. And the allocation is for $500,000 for this project. And just to note, the image rendering on the left side of the screen is just used for reference, is not intended to represent the actual design of the facility. And then the other thing, just to note, as a recap, what is included and what changes are proposed in MYIP Amendment 2. Again, $3 million has been allocated for the 11 Mile Creek Regional Stormwater Pond at West Roberts Road. $500,000 has been allocated for design of the Cantonment Community Center. And the $500,000 allocation that was included in MYIP Amendment 1 for the Town of Century Wastewater Improvement Project has been removed as it has been funded with other sources. With these changes, the total direct component funding commitment to date with the projects that are proposed in MYIP Amendment 2 brings the total allocated of Escambia County's direct component funds to $23.7 million out of the total $70 million that will be available through 2031. So as a requirement with the U.S. Department of Treasury, the MYIP is mandated to be open for a public comment period for at least 45 days. The public comment period for Amendment 2 began on April 13th and will close May 31st at 11:59 p.m. There are several ways to submit your public comments. The first is via tonight's meeting. You can submit them online at myescambia.com/MYIP. You can provide an email to restore@myescambia.com. Or you can also provide written comments by mail. You can address those to me, Matt Posner, Natural Resources Management, at 221 Palafox Place, Pensacola, Florida, 32502. If you don't have access to internet and are in need, or someone you know is in need of a hard copy, you can make a request by calling 850-595-0820. So with that, if there are any public comments for this evening, we will open that comment period now. Since it now appears to just be myself and Ryan Kirby, who's also a member of our staff, I don't think we're going to have any public comments, so that's fine. Certainly, you can again submit those online at myescambia.com/MYIP. There is a comment form you can fill out. Email them at restore@myescambia.com. Provide them via mail to the address below. So just to go over next steps just briefly, again, the public comment period will close on May 31st, 11:59. So we will accept comments due then. At that point, staff will review all comments, consolidate them, and respond in writing and consolidate that in the final draft Amendment 2 to the MYIP. We will bring that to the Board of County Commissioners for their final adoption of Amendment 2 at the June 17th Board of County Commission meeting. That same day, if the board approves, staff will transmit that final draft to the U.S. Department of Treasury for review and approval. At that time, after Treasury reviews, which can take anywhere from 30 to 90 days, the county will submit the individual project applications to Treasury for review and approval, and this relates to the second tier approval that I mentioned earlier in the meeting. So there are several steps that the county must go through in order to obtain access to the funding from the federal government, and we are working through that process diligently, and this public comment period is a critical piece to that approval. So with that, I greatly appreciate everyone's time. Hopefully many will watch this after the fact. If there's anything you have questions about, any concerns of, please feel free to reach out directly to me, Matt Posner, at the number listed below, or my email is below as well. So with that, we thank you for your time, and we hope to connect with you all soon. Thank you.